Rahman Rahim. In this video I'll explain the language process, and hopefully after watching this video you will be able to differentiate between the different type of aphasia. At the beginning, let's start by identifying the structure that are involved in the language process. I just zoom out to include this simple diagram in our view. So as you know, the language process actually starts by hearing or reading information, and it will end by speaking, voice production, or writing. And from the beginning till the end, we have almost 5 structures involved in this process. Now let's start by the first structure, which is the vernix area. It's also called the comprehension area, or we can call it also, because you receive information through this area, we can call it receptive or receiving area, and it's related to hearing, so it is sensory. It's a sensory area. From the vernix area, the information will go now to the transcortical area, which is the transcortical sensory area, which is the second area in the language process. I think it is also the same as the concept area. From the transcortical sensory area, the information now will go to the third structure, which is the transcortical motor area. From transcortical motor area to the Broca's area. And both of these two areas are involved in fluency, or we can call Broca's area also, because it's related to expressing yourself, or you will express yourself through this area. We can call it expression area or expressive area, or it's related because it's related to word production or articulation, so it is a motor area. And at the end we have the last area, which is the arcuate fasciculus. It's called also conduction area, and it is like a shortcut between vernix and Broca's area, and its function is repetition. Actually, the function of repetition is including only 3 structures, including vernix area, arcuate fasciculus, and Broca's area. So any defect out of these 3 structures will not affect repetition. Now let's see the different type of aphasia. We will classify aphasia based on 3 items: fluency, comprehension, and repetition. Now if the defect was in vernix area, which is, as we said, it's part of comprehension, of course comprehension will be affected, and because it's a part of repetition system, repetition will be affected. However, fluency or expression or speaking will be intact. So this patient will present with a terminology called word salad. So the patient will produce word. However, these words are not correlated to each other, or are meaningless at the end of the day. The second part of comprehension, which is the transcortical sensory, again comprehension will be affected. Fluency, however, will be intact, and because transcortical sensory is out of the repetition system, repetition will be intact. Now let's move to the fluency part. We have the first area, it's Broca's area. Of course, fluency will be impaired, however comprehension will be intact because we are out of comprehension structures, and repetition is impaired because Broca's is part of the repetition system. The second fluency area is the transcortical motor. Fluency here will be impaired. Comprehension will be intact, of course. And now, how to differentiate between transcortical motor and Broca's is the repetition. In this area, repetition will be intact because the repetition system is intact. Now let's assume if we have defect in both of transcortical and transcortical sensory and transcortical motor area, we'll have something called transcortical mixed area. So in this area, of course, fluency will be affected, comprehension will be affected. And now, how to differentiate between transcortical mixed and global aphasia, where all structures are involved, is the repetition. Because as we said, transcortical mixed sensory and motor area are not a part of the repetition system. So in the global aphasia, we will have of course, impaired fluency, impaired comprehension, and impaired repetition. And then we have something called conduction aphasia, when the defect only in the arcuate fasciculus. So of course we are out of fluency and comprehension areas, so fluency, comprehension will be intact. and the only affected things is repetition. Repetition will be impaired. Lastly, we have naming aphasia or anomia. In this type of aphasia, everything will be intact: fluency, comprehension, repetition. However, when you ask the patient to name, you will have a naming defect, so the only affected part is naming. And by this, now we identified all different 8 types of aphasia: Broca's, vernix, conduction, transcortical motor, transcortical sensory, transcortical mixed, global, and naming aphasias. I will conclude now by this diagram. Here, as you see, we have the middle cerebral artery. It's divided to M1, M2, M3, and M4. It has superior division and inferior division. If you notice, the Broca's area is located in the superior division in the frontal lobe. So if the defect was in the M4 superior division, we'll have expressive or Broca's aphasia or motor aphasia. If the defect was only in the inferior part of the M4, we'll have receptive aphasia, vernix aphasia, or sensory aphasia. However, if the defect was in proximal, in this area, before the division, most likely we'll have global aphasia. And by this, I can end my video. Thank you so much.